It's a calm morning on April 20th, 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico. 50 miles from the Louisiana coast, the Deepwater Horizon drilling platform rises from the water like a steel island. The sun breaks over the horizon as the day shift arrives. Coffee is poured, equipment is checked. Radio chatter fills the air with routine communications. To the 126 workers aboard, it's just another Tuesday. But deep beneath the platform, nearly 3 miles below the seafloor, something has already gone wrong. A series of events has been set in motion that cannot be stopped. And by the time the crew realizes what's happening, it will already be too late. This is the story of the Deepwater Horizon. The Gulf of Mexico, 6 a.m. April 20th, 2010. 50 miles southeast of Louisiana's coastline, the Deepwater Horizon stands as a monument to human ambition. This semi-submersible platform measures 396 feet in length and rises 242 feet above the water. Built in South Korea in 2001, she represents the cutting edge of deepwater drilling technology. Her crew of 126 works in rotating shifts, extracting oil from depths that would have been impossible to reach just decades earlier. The rig belongs to Transocean, but she's leased to British Petroleum. For months, the crew has been drilling the Macondo well, pushing down through nearly a mile of ocean and another 2.5 miles into the seafloor below. It's a $560 million project that's already 6 weeks behind schedule and $58 million over budget. The pressure to finish is immense. The morning shift begins at sunrise. In the galley, workers trade jokes over coffee that tastes like diesel. Night crew heads to their bunks, their boots still caked with drilling mud. Jason Anderson, the 35-year-old senior tool pusher, checks his phone one last time before the day's work begins. A family photo stares back at him from the screen. On the bridge, Captain Kurt Kuchta reviews the weather forecast. Clear skies, calm seas, light winds from the southeast. Perfect conditions. He makes a note in the ship's log. Weather favorable, proceeding with displacement operations. Down in the engine room, massive diesel generators rumble to life, their rhythm steady as a heartbeat. The machinery operator, Roy Wyatt Kemp, walks his routine inspection route, clipboard in hand. Everything reads normal. Temperature, pressure, fuel flow, all green. But 18,000 feet beneath them, in the darkness below the seafloor, something is already shifting. Macondo Prospect, 18,360 feet below sea level. The Macondo well has been cursed from the start. Gas pockets that appeared without warning. Rock formations that crumbled unexpectedly. Equipment that failed at critical moments. 3 months of setbacks have cost BP millions and frayed everyone's nerves. By April 20th, the drilling is finally complete. Now comes the delicate work of sealing the well temporarily until a production platform can be brought in. It requires installing cement barriers deep in the wellbore to cap off the reservoir. Think of it as putting a cork in a bottle filled with pressurized champagne, except the bottle is miles underground, and the pressure could power a small city. Jimmy Harrell oversees these final operations. At 54 years old, with 3 decades of offshore experience etched into his weathered face, Harrell has survived enough close calls to know when something feels wrong. And this morning, something definitely feels wrong. The cement job completed yesterday has produced troubling test results. Pressure readings that contradict each other. Numbers that don't make physical sense. At a morning meeting with BP's company men, Harrell voices his concerns. The data suggests the cement might not have sealed properly. They should run additional tests, maybe even re-cement the well. But time is money, and the Deepwater Horizon burns through nearly $1 million every day she sits idle. After lengthy discussion, the decision is made to proceed with the planned displacement. They'll monitor closely. Any problems? They'll shut down immediately. Harrell walks back to the drill floor, his gut churning. In all his years offshore, he's learned to trust that feeling. Today, he ignores it. By mid-morning, the crew starts the critical process of replacing the heavy drilling mud with seawater. This mud serves a vital purpose. Its sheer weight creates downward pressure that keeps oil and gas trapped in the underground reservoir from flowing up the wellbore. Removing it is like pulling the cork from that champagne bottle. The cement barriers are supposed to hold everything in place, but if those barriers have failed, massive pumps push seawater down the drill pipe while mud circulates back to the surface. Workers monitor pressure gauges and flow meters with intense focus. Any anomaly could signal disaster. For most of the morning, the operation proceeds smoothly. The mud comes up clean, the pressures hold steady. In the drilling shack, mud loggers watch their computer screens. These specialists analyze the returning fluids for traces of gas or oil. Around 2 p.m., subtle changes begin appearing in their data. Small gas readings that fluctuate slightly. Nothing alarming yet, but enough to make them take notice. They call it in. The supervisors review the numbers and decide to continue monitoring. Meanwhile, different crews work across the platform, each focused on their own tasks. On the bridge, Captain Kuchta maintains the vessel's position using computer-controlled thrusters. In the pipe deck, roughnecks prepare equipment for the next phase. In the accommodation block, off-duty workers catch up on sleep or video chat with families back home. Nobody notices that the well is starting to breathe. 5 p.m., the warning signs. The anomalies are no longer subtle. Pressure readings show values that violate basic physics. The fluid returns contain significantly elevated gas concentrations. Warning lights begin appearing on multiple control panels. Harrell reviews the data with growing alarm. He calls for a negative pressure test, a procedure designed to verify the cement seal is holding. The first test produces confusing results. They run it again. The numbers still don't make sense. A conference call is hastily arranged with BP engineers on shore. They debate interpretations, propose theories, argue over procedures. The discussion stretches on as the sun sets and the night shift begins arriving. The handover between shifts carries unusual tension. Day crew briefs their replacements on the pressure issues and the ongoing uncertainty. These aren't rookies. They're Gulf veterans who understand the stakes. They take their positions with heightened alertness. Jason Anderson, now starting his night shift, makes a quick call to his wife. "Everything's fine," he tells her. "Just some pressure test issues. Nothing we can't handle." They talk about their kids, about weekend plans, about normal life. "Love you," he says before hanging up. "See you in 2 weeks." Outside on deck, the Gulf breeze carries the familiar sense of salt air and diesel. The platform's lights create a bubble of brightness against the darkening sky. In the distance, a supply boat's running lights twinkle as it makes its way toward shore. As 9 p.m. approaches, the crew begins the final phase of displacement. This is the most critical period, when the last protective barrier of heavy mud will be removed. The drill floor buzzes with focused activity. Radio chatter crackles between stations. Everyone knows they're at maximum risk now. Far below, oil and gas from the Macondo reservoir probe the failed cement barriers like fingers searching for a crack. The pressure differential grows with each barrel of mud removed. The well is a loaded gun, and someone's finger is on the trigger. It happens faster than thought. A massive column of drilling mud suddenly erupts from the well bore, shooting up through the derrick with the force of a geyser. The mud explodes onto the drill floor, coating everything in thick brown sludge. For a split second, the crew stands frozen, their minds struggling to process what's happening. Then the gas arrives. Thousands of cubic feet of methane, compressed for millions of years beneath the seafloor, comes roaring up behind the mud. It expands as it rises, accelerating, turning into an invisible column of death that engulfs the platform. Alarms shriek across every deck. Workers scramble for emergency stations, but they're already out of time. On the seafloor, the blowout preventer should activate automatically. Its massive shear rams are designed to slice through the drill pipe and seal the well. It's the last line of defense, the fail-safe that's supposed to make disasters impossible. But a dead battery and a hydraulic leak have rendered it useless. The rams try to close but can't generate enough force. They stop halfway, leaving a gap for the gas to flow through. The methane cloud finds the diesel engines in seconds. The first explosion is a white flash that vaporizes everything near the drill floor. The blast wave travels at supersonic speed, shattering windows, buckling steel and throwing men like rag dolls. Jason Anderson is consumed instantly, never knowing what hit him. A second explosion follows, then a third, as more gas ignites. The derrick collapses into a twisted mass of flaming metal. Fire erupts across the drill floor, fed by the continuous stream of oil and gas pouring from the well below. Within minutes, flames reach hundreds of feet into the night sky, visible from the Louisiana coast 50 miles away. In the engine control room, the crew realizes with horror that they can't shut down the generators. The engines are sucking in methane-rich air, running faster and faster, acting as ignition sources for the inferno above. The room fills with smoke and heat. Captain Kuchta, his face burned and bleeding, fights his way to the emergency disconnect panel. His hands shake as he activates the system designed to separate the rig from the wellhead below. But the explosion has damaged the hydraulics. Nothing responds. Across the platform, survivors face impossible choices. Some areas are cut off by walls of fire. Others fill with toxic smoke. Lifeboats on one side can't be launched due to the list of the vessel. Workers climb over railings and leap 10 stories into the dark Gulf waters below, not knowing if they'll survive the fall or die from internal injuries when they hit. Dale Burkeen makes it to the edge but hesitates, looking back toward the flames, perhaps thinking of crewmates still trapped inside. A second explosion makes his decision for him. He jumps. He's never seen again. The next 36 hours become a desperate race against time. Coast Guard helicopters arrive, their spotlights sweeping the dark waters for survivors. Nearby vessels rush to help, pulling oil-covered workers from the sea. Of the 126 people aboard, 115 survive. 11 men are never found. They died in the initial explosions, consumed by flames hot enough to melt steel, or trapped in spaces that became tombs. On April 22nd, the Deepwater Horizon finally surrenders to the Gulf. The platform lists heavily to one side, then slides beneath the surface with a sound like tearing metal. She sinks to the seafloor, leaving only a column of fire burning on the water's surface where oil continues gushing from the severed riser pipe below. But the disaster is far from over. The damaged wellhead continues flowing, releasing oil at a rate of 62,000 barrels per day. BP attempts multiple solutions: containment domes, top kills, junk shots. Each fails. The well flows for 87 days, releasing 4.9 million barrels of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico. The slick spreads across 68,000 square miles. Oil washes ashore on Louisiana's marshlands, coating birds and marine life. The fishing industry collapses. Beaches close. The images broadcast worldwide show a coastline transformed into an ecological nightmare. Finally, on July 15th, a temporary cap stops the flow. On September 19th, a relief well intersects the Macondo bore, allowing engineers to pump cement and permanently seal the reservoir. The immediate crisis ends, but the damage is done. The investigation reveals a cascade of failures. The cement job was flawed from design. Warning signs were misinterpreted or ignored. Cost pressures led to risky decisions. The blowout preventer had known defects. Multiple opportunities to prevent disaster were missed. BP ultimately pays $65 billion in fines and settlements. Transocean pays $1.4 billion. New regulations sweep through the offshore industry. Drilling in deep water is suspended for months. Safety standards are completely overhauled. But for 11 families, no amount of money or regulation brings back what was lost. If you visit the coastal towns of Louisiana, you'll find memorials scattered along the shore. Bronze plaques embedded in seawalls, small markers in town squares. Each bears the same 11 names: Jason Anderson, 35, Dale Burkeen, 37, Donald Clark, 49, Stephen Curtis, 39, Roy Wyatt Kemp, 27, Carl Kleppinger, 29, Gordon Jones, 28, Blair Manuel, 56, Dewey Rivette, 48, Shane Rushto, 22, Adam Wise, 24. They were fathers and sons, husbands and brothers. They went to work expecting to return home in 2 weeks. Instead, they became names on a memorial. The Deepwater Horizon rests today in 5,000 feet of water, a twisted monument visible only to deep-sea robots. And far below the seafloor, the Macondo well sits sealed beneath thousands of tons of cement and steel, a permanent scar on the earth. On clear nights, fishermen still work the waters above. Their boats move across the surface, nets dragging the depths below. They pass over the wreck site without knowing, going about their routines, just as the crew of the Deepwater Horizon once did. Unaware that beneath them lies a reminder of what happens when human ambition outpaces human wisdom, and when the pursuit of profit overshadows the imperative of safety. A reminder that in the end, the sea always collects its debts. If this story impacted you, leave a like to help others discover it. And if you want to hear more stories of disasters, engineering failures, and the lessons we learned from them, subscribe to the channel. New videos every week exploring the incidents that shaped our world.